Cool, and we are live. Welcome, everybody. My name is Autocomplete, and thank you for joining us for a Cody Your Questions Answered live stream. We have two amazing guests today, the co-founders of Sourcegraph, Byung and Quinn. They're going to be joining us shortly, and while they get set up, we have a number of pre-submitted questions that our registrants have submitted, but if you have any additional questions, please post them in the chat and we'll try to answer as many as we can over the next 35 minutes. And while we get set up, where is everybody tuning in from? Post it in the chat so we make sure that the chat is working. All right, Quinn is in San Francisco. Our entire marketing team is here this week. Welcome, Quinn. Welcome, Byung. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing
Good to
well.
see you all.
Awesome.
Thanks everyone for joining.
We have folks from Germany, Latvia, New Jersey, Bay Area, San Jose, Spain, another from Germany, Canada, and North Carolina. We got a good crowd today.
It's a good spread. How long have people been using Cody for?
And India and the Canary Islands. I've been using Cody for a year and 1 day. That is my tenure here at Sourcegraph so far.
Nice. 1 month. Relatively new user. Nice. Got some new folks.
All right, 8 weeks, 3 months, and just started playing around with it. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining. Without further ado, let's jump into some of your questions. And like I said, please post them live and we'll try to answer as many as we can. But we'll kick things off with some of the pre-submitted questions. And the first question that we got was, when will Visual Studio be supported? Not VS Code, but the official Visual Studio IDE.
I'll take that one. We are building support for Visual Studio and Eclipse and more editors. We're doing them all so that they use the same exact Cody chat sidebar that people love in VS Code and on the web, and that's coming to JetBrains as well. So yes, we want to get to all the editors and we want to get there with the same awesome experience. And we have Visual Studio working internally. It's experimental. And there have actually been some people that found the Eclipse and Visual Studio plugins that we're making and used them. And, you know, they got there a little early. But I think that it's on the order of months when it will be in people's hands. And especially if you're, you know, we have a lot of customers and we have some customers that are like these big enterprises that need everything to be exactly documented, you know, non-experimental on day one. But I imagine if you're joining this live stream, you probably are wanting to try something a little bit early. So I would estimate about, you know, a month until you'll have something that will be really useful. And then we'd love to start getting your feedback on.
Right on. I think the next question is kind of related. Actually, we can jump to the next one. We have Justin as well in the background loading up the questions. And the next one is, are you still committed to maintaining the Neovim plugin? I'm aware that the original maintainer of it is no longer with you. If yes, I would like to sign up for Pro immediately.
Well, we would like to. We have a lot of other editors in the hopper right now. And right now, we don't have anyone who is working on that. So, you know, this just recently came up. Look, we love Neovim. Actually, Byung and I use Emacs. So I don't know if we say we'd love Neovim. We love all Cody fans and we love Emacs, and we acknowledge that Neovim is an editor that many very smart people that we love use. So it's really important to us. But we gotta be focused. And right now, we are not actually moving that forward. I know that there's a lot of people that use it and love it, but we do want to in the future. Just let us get through Visual Studio. Let us get the VS Code experience and chat, get over to JetBrains. Let us get Eclipse, and then we will get back to Neovim. So we absolutely want to do it. We want to get to all the editors, but want to just be like honest right now. There's no one who is working on that literally right now. So I hope that by the time we do make it, that you love it and then you sign it for pro. But hey, if you want to try it for free now, that's fine too.
Right on. And the Neovim plugin is also it's open source. So if you'd like to also send a PR, please feel free to do so. Awesome. The next question, and maybe we'll let Beyond handle this one. Have you started thinking about how to support multi-file editing? And if so, what are your plans?
Yeah, that's something that we're definitely thinking about right now. And it's something that we definitely want to support. I think that's an important use case that has emerged in terms of like people wanting to be able to do that from chat. And a lot of the development that we're doing right now is in the realm of making the chat more more kind of sophisticated. And it's kind of evolving in this direction of being less of like a chat bot and more of just like a one box that is the kind of like entry point for all sorts of things that you want to do in code, including asking questions, searching for things, having it write and execute code, and also making edits that span multiple files. So it's still pretty early stages right now, but if you have ideas for what you want to see out of that feature, please send them our way. We love to iterate against those ideas and incorporate that into the thing that we eventually ship here.
Right on. Lots of use cases for multi-file editing, and I'm excited for the future there. Cool. The next question. I am a little bit worried about Cody being down one day because Anthropic, ChatGPT, or whomever changed its policy. Do you have any plans to mitigate that?
There's a lot of reasons why those could go down, and we've actually seen a lot of outages with Anthropic or OpenAI or whatever, and then Cody users can just go in the model dropdown and choose another one. Or if there's a nuclear bomb that's dropped on the whole planet, well, you can still use Olama if you're in your Faraday cage bomb shelter. So we give you a ton of options here, and that's actually something that means you don't need to be worried about Cody being down because any one of these are down. We also do have really good relationships with all of these providers. We were among the first to get the kind of really strong API agreements. So I would not worry about this. In fact, I would worry about this less with Cody than with literally any other tool that's out there. If you got any other specific concerns, then please, let us know. And we want to make it so everyone knows that Cody's always going to work. I've been traveling a bunch, and I love when I'm on the airplane, like a lot of times, even if they have Wi-Fi, it doesn't work that well until they get Starlink. And I love nothing more than just going in full offline mode with Cody and using Olama. So, we want to make it so Cody's always available. It's like water for you.
Nice, I love it. And yeah, a question for the audience while we answer the next one. In the chat, post which models do you end up using with Cody the most? And is there a different model that you'd like to see us support? So paste it in the chat, let us know. And for the next question, I was wondering if this time it was stay free or if demand increases, would it be back to subscription based? So I think this is talking about Cody versus Cody Pro. So currently with Cody, we do have a forever free tier that gives you unlimited auto completions, about 100 chat messages per month. And then the Pro tier gives you unlimited access to all of the LLMs that we support for both auto completions and chat. And if I'm understanding the question correctly, would we, let me know if I'm wrong in the chat, but would we consider
I think
getting...
the question is probably like, hey, Cody has an incredibly generous free tier. There's a ton of people that just use the free tier and they love it. And for anyone who's using Cody free, also really Cody Pro, really anything in Sourcegraph that we offer, we have so many enterprises that use Cody and Sourcegraph, and they pay us a lot of money and we deliver them a product that they love. That means that we can offer that same product to people that are not working in enterprise. And why are we doing that? Well, two reasons. One is because it really helps us make a great product. The feedback that you all bring to us helps us make the product better for everyone. And you generally bring feedback to us earlier than, say one of the top 5 biggest banks in the US. The second reason is if there's just a 1% chance that someone using Cody free meets a friend and says, "Oh, I've been using this great Cody thing," and that friend happens to have a friend that works at an enterprise, and then that's how it all works out. So we love all the people that are using Cody free, and please spread the word about it and keep sending feedback, and that makes everything work out.
Absolutely. And yeah, please give us your feedback. And as far as the ways that you can give us feedback, we have our Discord server, we have our community forums. You can find us on Twitter, and we would love to hear from you through any of the channels. Let's see, this is a very interesting question. Stephen asks, can you reach or exceed feature parity with Cursor as an extension rather than the full IDE replacement approach that Cursor seems to be taking?
Yeah, so I can take this. I think our philosophy is we want to bring the great Code AI experience into whatever editors that people are using, and developers use a whole bunch of editors, whether it's VS Code or IntelliJ or Eclipse and Visual Studio, Emacs, Neovim. It's kind of like a very personal choice what editor you use, and you're kind of like used to all the kind of conveniences that you have in that editor, and we want to make the experience of using that editor as best as possible. We also think that there's a lot of other features that we want to build that are frankly outside the editor. The editor is just one tool that's in use in the software development lifecycle, and we think of Cody in the long term as being part of Sourcegraph, and really it's the extension of Sourcegraph into your editor. And there's like so many more things that we can do in terms of helping you understand code, helping you review code, helping you test code across the lifecycle that are not just strictly confined to your editor. That being said, if there are specific features that you want to see that you think would be compelling to add to Cody in whatever editor you use, we'd love to get that feedback. We've taken inspiration from a lot of sources, and some of the features that are in Cody today are incredibly useful and came from feedback like that. Like the Command K inline editing, Cody does a fantastic job of using Sonnet 3.5 or your preferred model to make inline edits in the code today. Our completions quality has gotten really good, and we have some big improvements coming up to chat and chat context as well that should vastly improve the quality of the generated code that you can write in chat, as well as get you kind of like very high fidelity answers there as well. So any other like feedback or, hey, you should go implement an experience that looks like this, please send it our way. This is the reason we have these sessions, and want to listen to folks like the folks in this room right now.
Definitely. And yeah, let us know if there is a feature that Cursor has that Cody doesn't, that you would like Cody to have, and we'll see if we can find a way to integrate it. So the next question, having just used Super Maven's autocomplete in Writer, it is honestly 10x beyond Cody's autocomplete. Please advise if you are making improvements in this area for Cody. So what are we doing on autocompletions?
Yeah, so in the next couple of weeks or so, we're shipping an update to the model that we use in autocomplete that should make it both faster and, frankly, higher quality than it is currently. So we have a new model in the works that should take better advantage of the context that we provide too. And so there'll be near-term improvements shipping there, as well as some updates to the way that the kind of completion mechanics work. So what we found with like other tools is oftentimes they don't display the whole completion at once. They should just show like the first line of the completion, and then you tab, and then it shows kind of the remainder of the completion. It's kind of like a UI hack, which is why we didn't implement it at first, but people seem to like that. And so we have an experiment to kind of like turn that functionality on as well. But in terms of overall completions quality, I think we're still at the forefront. And the update that we're shipping is probably gonna put us like at the very top of completions acceptance rate, which is kind of like a common barometer of how good are the suggestions that the tool is actually making.
A couple other things on that. So we have this feature that we're using internally experimentally, where it's like a kind of explicitly triggered autocomplete, and we use a bigger model there. So with autocomplete, traditionally people have said, oh, because it's just automatic and passive, it's got to be really fast. And that is true for automatic and passive autocompletes. But sometimes you've just hit a curly brace and you're just opening a method and you want like a try harder version of autocomplete. You want it to use like Claude 3.5 Sonnet. In that case, it's kind of like an inline edit, like one of those option K things in Cody. So we are working on something that is a single, really simple key binding that will essentially do an autocomplete with Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So that's another way of autocomplete. And we're searching for not only how do we make the automatic and passive thing faster, but how do we give you more options if you do want to wait 2 or 3 seconds. And I think once we do that, once we make it work really well, I think people will love that too.
Super completions is what we're calling it, and yeah, super excited for yeah. Sometimes you just want a little extra, like you don't mind waiting an extra couple seconds to get a really good auto completion or super completion. So stay tuned for that. And then Quinn, somebody had mentioned that your video is coming through as a black screen. I don't know if you want to try to leave and rejoin or refresh, but either way, we'll try to get that fixed. The next question that we have is another relating to cost. Why is your service cheaper than ChatGPT or Claude? How do you bypass the message limits on Claude 3.5 Sonnet?
We use the API. We have really fantastic API agreements with all of these providers. And when we send API traffic to these providers, it's not just for Cody Free and Cody Pro users, it's also for some of the biggest companies in the world that are our customers. And we have looked at the cost, we've looked at how people are using it, and the numbers work out for us. Again, we have a lot of big enterprises that pay us a lot of money. And for Cody Pro users, many of them actually use more than they're paying us. But if you look across all users, it works out. And if you factor in the enterprise customers that we have, it definitely works out. So there's no secret other than we're a company with a really fast growing product that has a ton of demand, and the numbers work out. And if you're interested in more of that, then I'm sorry, but you'd have to join Sourcegraph, and we are hiring. And once you join Sourcegraph, then you can see, all the gory financial details.
Also, as Quinn mentioned before, the reason that we're able to provide such a generous free tier is because we're able to connect it to a thriving enterprise business. So if you want more features, more functionality in the free tier, one way you can help us is by, sharing Cody with your coworkers and spreading the word with your friends who are working at companies and saying, hey, you should try out Cody, because the more we can grow there, the more we can provide to kind of like all developers using Sourcegraph and Cody.
Yeah, there's also a talk I gave at the AI Engineer World Fair that just talks about how ultimately, if you're using a dev product and you love it and there's no way that product's making money, then it's probably going to go away at some point. So we'll post the YouTube there. That gives some more numbers that people here might find interesting.
I will find that link and share it in the chat in just a second. But in the meantime, the next question is from a live viewer, Brooke. I have only just started using Cody. Our app has a split front-end and back-end repos. What is the best way for Cody to get all of the proper context for generating, say, another component that is similar to existing comments and knows how to talk to the backend API? I think this is going to be a really great answer.
Yeah. So using Cody Enterprise, just mention the other repo as well. If you're using Cody Free and Pro, it's only one repo at a time, and that's because it runs more locally, and we don't store a copy of all the code on the server. We're coming up with something that will offer that, even if you're not an enterprise customer. So we'll have a better answer for Cody Free and Pro users soon. And if you're working in open source, because we do have all that code on our servers, then you can mention both of those too. But if it's two private repos, then the answer is get Cody Enterprise, or wait a few months until we've got something where you can just sign up and click authorize on the web really easily.
Sorry, you can also mention components from both repositories. Like if you have them both open in your editor, you should be able to mention symbols and files from each. So if you have a rough idea of like the symbol or the file that's related to what you're trying to do, you can tag those both into context, and it should integrate both in its response.
Yeah, that's a good point on a file level.
Right on. Thank you for that. Then Larry asks, can you explain what the Cody indexing is actually doing? I'm not sure if it's creating and then later using embeddings locally, or if it's sending embeddings to servers and querying them there. Also, any clarification around which models it is using for embeddings?
This is a bit of a complex answer at the moment because the way we've built the context engine, the behavior is a bit different between PLG and enterprise. So for if you're using Cody Free or Cody Pro, there is an option to enable embeddings locally, in which case it generates the embeddings server side, but then stores them locally. For enterprise, we currently don't use embeddings at all. We just rely on kind of like LLM expanded keyword search as the main context provider. And then there's kind of different paths for how the context is ranked. It's a big priority for us to kind of like unify these paths. We kind of just like implemented them separately just as a function of trying to move quickly and deliver the product quickly to both audiences. But within a month or so, you should expect to see kind of the context path unified across both Cody Free, Pro, and Enterprise to something that fetches the context from an API endpoint from Sourcegraph. So in about 1 or 2 months, all context will be fetched from this API endpoint, and behind the scenes, that API endpoint will use a combination of keyword search, embeddings-based search, and probably some degree of kind of like walking the code graph for kind of expanding the set of results to include as well. And as far as like what model it's using, we have our own internally fine-tuned model off of kind of like, I forget the exact name, but if you go to like the Limsys leaderboard and find like the best performing open source model, we've taken that and we fine-tuned it a little bit more for our embedding search.
Right on. Sounds like we have a lot of great stuff coming up in the next month or so. The next question from Sam is, have you read Nicholas Carlini's How I Use AI post? And if so, what are your thoughts? Which I would guess you probably agree with mostly. And do you think there is stuff he is missing out from what you can offer with Cody?
Yeah, I read that and I loved it. And we see this big divide. Some people are using chat all the time while coding, and others are like, no, why would I do that? And they might be using autocomplete or nothing. Cody is this big bet that like chat is changing how people code. We have autocomplete, we have edits, but chat is a huge area where we want to differentiate, because that's where it can make best use of the context that Sourcegraph has about code and the ability to understand your code, and also all the models. Because if you're using chat, you really benefit from the biggest, best model. If you're using autocomplete, in many cases, more about optimizing a model from 9 months ago. So Steve Yegi, who's at Sourcegraph. He wrote this thing, chat-oriented programming, CHOP. And we hear a lot of people using that term. And I love this Nicholas Carlini blog post because it's basically saying, hey, look, here are the actual really concrete ways that I use chat all the time. And I don't know how you look at that and how could you say, oh, chat's not helping anyone. It's like so clear. And this is what people need. This is what those kind of skeptics who don't understand how we all are coding using chat all the time need to see. So we want more of this. And for us, there was this interesting flip when we're trying to figure out, like, who is our competitor? What is our biggest competition? And we could look at something like Copilot, and yes, and that is a competitor of us. But really, the interesting stat is 92% of devs have used ChatGPT at work in the US. 92% is a huge number. Like, not even 92% of people use a toothbrush. Okay. So that actually is our biggest competitor. You look at something like Nicholas Carlini, I'm pretty sure he's just using like Claude's or chat or ChatGPT for it. And when you get that in the editor, then you also get that kind of automatic understanding of your code. So we want to win people over that are using ChatGPT, that 92% of devs that are using ChatGPT, so that they can use Cody. And that 92% is a much bigger number than we crunched the numbers. Again, in this AI engineer talk that I gave, only 5% of professional devs are using code AI tools in their editor today. So, we want to go after that 92% and make it so that they love using Cody. Also, another awesome stat is, thanks to the improvements in Cody chat that we've made, and thanks to all of your feedback, now on average, Cody users do 14 chats per day. I think we can get that number up a lot more. But it was only recently that GitHub came out with a paper showing that on average, devs had around 14 autocomplete suggestions accepted per day. And a chat is way more helpful. It's also like something you kind of go out of your way to do. So we think it's an order of magnitude more valuable than autocomplete. And we do see those kind of numbers for autocomplete in Cody. But this is just a revolution with chat. And the fact that you're using something 14 times a day, I mean, again, that's like real usage, real value. And it's a lot more times than you use a toothbrush per day. So we want to be more valuable than a toothbrush to all of you.
And the toothbrush hasn't really changed in thousands of years, but chat-oriented programming is changing every day.
That's right.
Awesome. And Bianca, did you have any other thoughts or comments on his blog post or just CHOP in general?
It was a great post, and I think we're going to see more blog posts like this. It's one of those things where I feel like there's like this modality switch that you can get into, where I see this especially with experienced folks, myself included. It's like sometimes I just want to do the thing that's familiar, which is oftentimes like diving into the weeds and kind of like linesmithing code. But there's some days where I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to try to like have Cody write as much code for me and really try to be as lazy as possible, which is like really fighting every urge in my body to not do that. But the more I do that, the more I'm pleasantly surprised. And so it's kind of like doing that, we're all kind of discovering this new way of working with this new technology together. So if you have cool like use cases that you discovered, or like, there's a point which you're astounded or surprised with what you're able to do, please share that in Discord or social media. We'd love to hear kind of like stories about that, because each one of those is kind of like a learning experience for all of us, because everyone is kind of like discovering the possibilities together.
Right on. And then it looks like a follow-up question from Sam. Are you planning in a way of giving Cody access to execute code or scripts? I use dev containers and I'm in love with them, so maybe knowing it's in a sandbox environment can help make this safer.
The short answer is yes. We are looking to enable Cody to execute code. There's a lot of demand for this, and there's a lot of research showing that this improves the quality of the code generation. It's not available yet, but hopefully I'll have more to say on this soon.
Right on.
All right. I love this one for two reasons. One, because we love edge cases. I mean, we're all devs here. We all use Cody all the time. Like, we're all an edge case. But also, we just shipped something today that helps you. If you've got like tons and tons of custom commands, that new chat window, yeah, it can get pretty busy. But now this very small, but when you close it, it actually remembers that. So you can keep it open when you want, and if you close it, then it's not going to get in your way. This was part of the introduction of the prompt library, which is a way for you to share and reuse prompts, huge requests. And there's a lot of overlap with that and custom commands, because a lot of people use custom commands just as a way of sharing prompts. Prompt library lets you share it with more people, more users, more across repos. And custom commands and prompt library are a big focus, because again, people like this Nicholas Carlini guy, he's figured out how to make chat work really well. He's figured out the kind of minor ways you need to write the prompt, and some other devs haven't figured that out. So we want to make it so people like Nicholas Carlini or people like Kinlo, who's written all these custom commands, can share them with a lot more people and make it so that other people can see the magic of code chat that they've seen.
Yeah, and so yeah, Quinn had just answered that question, so we could take it offline. But Kinlo, I would also love to know, out of the 10,000 custom commands you've written, how many of them do you use on a day-to-day basis?
He uses all 10,000 every day. He's the most productive programmer in the world because of Cody.
I love it. Cool. For the next question, and
I see Sam has a follow-up question on that. He says, last time I tried, couldn't give custom inputs in a dynamic way. So would love to actually hear more about what you're trying to accomplish, like the high-level problem. But this is exactly the area that we want to do. So here's an example: generate unit test. It's what I would say magic. It works great if you are using some pretty common frameworks and languages like a React, something with jest tests. But if you want to get a little more input, well then, because it's magic, it doesn't give you the way to give that input. So one thing we're doing is we're changing how generate unit test works to, instead of just magically doing it, to show you in chat the prompt that it will use, and there's going to be some placeholders. And we'll do our best job to fill in the placeholders. One of the placeholders might be, what testing framework do you want to use? Is it Jest, or is it VTest, or is it something else? It's also going to say, what are some other similar test files that you want the new one to match the style of? And this is a way of getting the user input, having it be a little more manual and explicit, but ultimately that means that the test that it generates is going to be much better. And we found this out because of the feedback from all of you, because of people who are using custom commands to generate their tests instead of our built-in magic generate unit test feature. So giving the ability to have custom inputs into prompt into a command is a huge priority, a huge need for us. So we would love to hear what you're looking for out of that, and look out for a bunch more improvements there soon.
right on. And I know we are coming up on the hour. We have about 2 minutes left. So if you have any final questions, please submit them, and we'll try to answer a couple more. There is one from David that I wanted to get to. Image upload is missing for Claude 3.5 and GPT-4o that would support image context, but it is not currently possible with Cody. Do we have a plan to integrate image uploads where you can maybe give it a UI or a screenshot of an error log and say, give me, what is this? Or can you build me a UI that looks just like this?
Yeah, this is something that we would like to do. We do have experimental support for this via Olama. It's very much experimental. It's coming up more and more. It's not something that we're currently working on, but I think it's something that we will do. There's some work that we have done over the last couple months to make the way that Cody can switch among multiple models and understand their different capabilities and context window sizes and other things like that much more robust. You're already seeing the improvements there, where Cody does a much better job of using all the context window that is available to it in a given model. And let's say, GPT-5 Strawberry comes out right after this call or something. I don't know, and it has some other context window. We're going to be able to add support for that in, less than an hour. So all of that understanding better the model capabilities, that's kind of a prerequisite for us to add in multimodal support. But we don't have it yet, but just knowing that we are working a lot of foundational things to make that possible. And ultimately, the more feedback we hear about it helps us prioritize, should we do that or other things?
Excellent. And we are right on time, but one final question from Kinlo. This one is on our VS Code extension localization. Are there any plans to introduce new languages for Cody, for example, Spanish, Italian, Korean, etc.? And I think this is more along the lines of the VS Code extension supporting different languages, less so than the LLM output.
We do not have plans to do this right now. If it's a blocker, then please let us know. We have a lot of customers who have big engineering teams that do not speak English as their primary language. I personally have worked at a company that did not speak English as their primary language, and the code documentation, was all in a different language. So I've felt the pain of switching among multiple languages. It's not a priority for us right now because we hear that, users actually most of their dev tools are in English and they can get by in that way. But we'd love to hear feedback here. Also, someday we'll make it so that everyone's just speaking code and there's no human languages whatsoever.
Future is exciting. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We are right at the hour, so we'll give you folks time back. Any final closing thoughts, Byung or Quinn?
Thank you all so much. We love the feedback. We appreciate you choosing Cody, and please help us make the best product in the world. Cody is open source, and you can see that it's getting so much improvement all the time. We are all daily active users here at Sourcegraph, and love to hear all the feedback. So please keep it coming.
Yeah, thanks everyone for taking the time, and please spread the good word about Cody.
Thank you again, and we will see you next time.
See ya.